and welcome to another episode of The Real Consumer, a show focused on the 65 percenters, or what I refer to as the real average consumers. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about something that is really important to me and what I've been focusing on in terms of my tech purchasing and tech life for the past several, months, years, something like that. Homekit. So, as you know, we on this channel we talk about Apple products mostly, and one of my favorite things is smart home tech, and I'm going to try and obviously bring a lot of that to you. So today I want to talk to you about HomeKit and what's going on with my transition to HomeKit and why I am focused on HomeKit. I recently did a video about a Vocal Link lock, and I kind of mentioned that I was going to be discussing this, and so I kind of want to dig into it and kind of explain what's going on from my perspective. So a little bit of background. I started using smart home products years ago in different capacities, and I used some from an alarm company I had, decades ago, or I shouldn't say decades, but 10 years ago, and it worked well. But I got into the Amazon Echo as one of the early original imitations to the Echo program, and started using Alexa from there. And it's grown, and I've picked up things that were Amazon based. I've picked up things that were Google based. Most of my security and thermostats are all Nest, those kinds of things. And so I'm making a transition away from that. And let me tell you why. First and foremost, not what you might think. It's not a privacy issue. I know some people have a big issue with that, and I can appreciate that. I really can. I know that there are some concerns there. And it's not a political issue, which I'm sure there's some people that have that problem too, not me. My issue is simplicity. I want one platform. I want one app. I want one place, one thing, one app to rule them all. And I, over the years, have gotten really frustrated at attempts to do so. I've been trying to do this for a long time. I've tried doing it through the Alexa app, and that doesn't work. I've tried Google Home's app, and that didn't work. And I've tried using smart things. I've tried creating dashboards. I've tried repurposing old tablets. I've done all of the litany over the past several years to try and come up with one user interface or one scheme that I can access, because I have a family and a wife and relatives, and they don't want to have to dig. If they have to dig or figure out or maneuver around smart home, it just doesn't work, and they don't use it. It's not effective. The purpose of smart home is to be smart. It's to be simple and effective and easy. And unfortunately, I have to tell you tech companies, you're not making it easy. And now I know the chip program has come out, and Apple and Amazon and Google are supposed to be kissing and making up and working out, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon, and there's always going to be caveats because all of them have their own vested interests and ideas at play here. But the problem is that it's segmented all across the board, and they all say, oh well, Alexa's got this huge, vast user base and apps and integration base, and that's great. But the problem is that you can't use them all to their fullest of their abilities in one place. So, long story short, HomeKit. So I want to try and bring everything into one house, and that's why I'm transitioning to HomeKit. So I also want to make sure what's important to me is automations, the ability to get into it and program things and if, then, this, that, type of automations and scenarios and scenes that I can utilize. And HomeKit offers I think a much better interface, a much more extensive interface, to be able to do those types of things and also leverage products off of products. So you have manufacturers A's motion detector, and it can turn on manufacturers B's lights. Those are all things that don't play well with it in other ecosystems like Amazon and Google's ecosystems. They don't really play well from that perspective. And so that's something that really appealed to me from HomeKit as well. The other thing is that from consistency, when it comes to why I want one interface, is because some apps are written better than others. And that's a big problem. You'll go in, you'll have one app in the Amazon or Google ecosystem, and another one that's just terrible, and it was just, the user interface was just not good. For example, Nest. Sorry Google, I hate the Nest app. It's slow. It takes forever to load things. It's not intuitive. Why does my lock have to be halfway down the page when it should be up towards the top, or the alarm should be up towards the top? Why does the main thermostat, my downstairs thermostat, have to be down towards the bottom? I mean, it's just not user friendly, and it's slow, and it's a pain. And I hate the Nest app. So again, that's why I'm here. HomeKit also runs locally. I don't have to worry about issues in terms of connectivity. I have had some of those problems in the past where all of a sudden lamps that have been coming on and off for the better part of a month, just all of a sudden 2 nights in a row don't come on and off with Alexa. Don't know why, but they just didn't. And so by running it locally, there's fewer issues in terms of those automations, those things running than I've experienced in the past. I'm sure some of you may have different mileage, but that's just my personal opinion. So the other thing about this is I wanted some kind of touch interface, some tactile interface. So it's great that you can ask A and Schmoozle to do something, but the problem is that there's no tactile. Sometimes you just want to touch. You don't want to say it, or there's a miscommunication. You want to it's just easier to go up and touch. I saw a YouTube video recently by someone, and one of the things they talked about on smart home is the design has to be so that the physical buttons and controls are still relevant. And I agree with that. The ability to walk into a room and hit the light switch, as opposed to always have to use the smart home aspect of things or a voice assistant, is important. And part of the problem is that Amazon has based so much of their smart home infrastructure on utilizing the digital assistant that the physical aspects of things are lost. And so I wanted a touch interface, whether that be on a phone or a tablet or something in that perspective. And HomeKit offers you a litany of those options. I also wanted confirmation that things run. Not just a blue circle. I wanted to be able to have confirmation that when I press a button that the item comes on. So these are all the reasons why I've chosen HomeKit. So obviously you can't, Siri and HomeKit, kind of synonymous with each other. They're kind of built together as part of the process. So you kind of have to use them interchangeably and use them in different ways. Obviously, HomeKit's the backbone and the infrastructure that makes everything work, and the digital assistant in Siri is what helps to assist in that process. But so there's some different aspects. So one of the things I want to talk about is what Siri does well, or what Siri/HomeKit do well. You can use common names and phrases, and this is a big thing. I hear often on the internet and in podcasts and in different articles how much better Alexa is than Siri, how far behind Siri is, and how could Apple allow this to happen? And I have to tell you, my experience just differs a lot. Yes, Alexa has more to offer if you want to know how many people live in Uganda. What I'm talking about is in real life. How many times a day do you really ask what the population of Venezuela is? Or what's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? How often do you do that? But how often do you turn on the lights? How often do you change your thermostat? How often do you lock the front door? All of these things are things you do every day, and that's what's important. And the problem is that from my experience over years of using Alexa is that when you ask simple things, if you don't say it exactly right, it trips her up. Or that if there's more than one device in a room, it can confuse the two different devices, or which one, or it's just always something seems to be not exactly. It's got to be exact. If you don't say it exactly, it trips it up. With Siri, it's much, much more logical. If I say turn on the living room lights, Alexa's going to come back and say, which lights? Which living room lights? Siri's going to turn on all of them. If I want to change certain ones, then I just tell her certain ones. If I say, Siri, turn on the living room lamps, it's going to turn on all the living room lamps. Alexa's going to say, you know, which lamp, unless you have to go in and specify the two lamps I have in my living room as a group. So those are some of the things that Siri, I think, actually excels better than Alexa does. I'm sure your mileage may vary and you may disagree with me, but when it comes to these kind of practical requests, Siri works better to me. And then, of course, obviously, the ability to create advanced automations, advanced scenes, and be able to, you know, operate them from Siri is extremely handy, extremely handy. I mean, things where you can set scenes and be able to trigger them from multiple places and multiple times using your voice is super, super important. I can use my voice, my watch. I can use my phone. I can just say the words. I mean, it's synonymous with that. And yes, I know for $29 you can put an Echo Dot everywhere, and I had at one point them pretty much everywhere. But again, it just sometimes isn't. It's not as intuitive, especially if you want to be quiet. I can pick this up to my ear and say something without the entire neighborhood, everybody hearing me, versus having to yell it to do so. And what if you're outdoors? All right, so obviously Siri and HomeKit do some things poorly, really poorly, and you should know this before you make the same transition I do. Product selection. It's always been an issue with Apple, and it started with their hardware requirements. And I say hardware requirements because they used to physically require a specific hardware in devices to be certified to work with HomeKit and work with HomeKit. They changed that and they went to a software-based certification program, which opened up the door for a lot more vendors to be able to jump in. And we have seen a significant growth over the past year or two with HomeKit products. I'm going to talk about one here in a second. And that growth is coming. But at the same time, it's taken forever. And it's still nowhere near where Amazon and Google are. So just know going into it, if you want to be able to have the same kind of experience that I'm detailing, what I'm talking about here, you're going to have to just understand the selection is going to be limited in what you're going to do, and you're going to have to make some decisions. In my previous video, I talked about door locks, and although there are a handful of HomeKit door locks, it's not a lot. And right now I have a doorbell, and I have a video camera doorbell. And the reason why I have it is it just came out. There wasn't one, well, realistically, one out there until the Logitech came out recently. So again, the product selection is an issue. And then a couple of things that are, apparently I hear they're working on, but really concern me is the dreaded device unresponse errors. I don't understand why I go look at my HomeKit and I see device unresponsive and I tap on it and all of a sudden it works. Or you have one of my outdoor Hue lights will say unresponsive, and you go into the Hue app and it's working fine. So, and if I hit it on HomeKit, it works fine too. The price. So the other thing that you need to consider, and again, this has changed over the past year or two, but the prices of the accessories is quite pricey. One of the reasons why I haven't made this transition until now is because of the limited selection and cost entailing with putting these products in your home. So that's why I'm going to talk about a product here in a second that kind of shows you this new generation and where it's going and why I'm making this transition. So over Christmas, I have obviously all of people out there decorations, and you want to automate your decorations because that's kind of a pain. You have to go out there and plug things in and do things in, you know, I know. First world problems. But having the Christmas tree come on automatically and have the lights outside come on automatically, all of that it makes life a smart home. And that's what the idea is, to make your home easier and more intuitive. And one of the things that's allowed me to do that is this smart plug from Meros or Meros. I don't know exactly what it is. I picked up a 3-pack of these on Amazon around Christmas time. And I picked up 3, I think, for like $29, and there was a coupon on Amazon. I'll put a link down in the show description for this and the other outlet I'm going to show you here in a second on there, and you can check it out. If you make a purchase from Amazon, it helps me out to make these shows. But I picked these up. They were super cheap. It was like 3 of them for $29, and there's like a $5 off coupon or something like that. And what I have to tell you is they have been rock solid. I have Wemo plugs, and I've had them for several years, and throughout my house as well, in different various plugs, but I constantly am having issues with them. They will drop connectivity, and it's not a HomeKit issue. I know it's not a HomeKit issue because they will drop out of their own app. And sometimes I have to, reboot the access point they're connected to on my Wi-Fi to get them to come back on. And so, but I've had issues like that in the past with them. And so I can't tell you that I'm not purchasing any more of them. Sorry, Belkin. But these Meros plugs have been super rock solid for me. I haven't had any issues with them not connecting or performing, and they are fast. So the other thing with the other plugs I have is that when you hit the button on HomeKit, it's a couple of seconds and then boom. It's instantaneous. It's almost like what I hear from people who have invested in the new Thread system, how fast it is. These plugs are that fast. They only occupy one of the slots on your wall, so you have access to the second outlet. They have a manual switch on the side, obviously. But one of the greatest things about this particular plug, or this brand in general, is with Meros, is one of my favorite features of companies like this. I installed this and never downloaded an app. I used the HomeKit app to install this. Now, truth be told, I have gone back and downloaded the app to see if there's any firmware updates or anything like that, just to check it out, because that's what I need to do to be able to tell you what you can and can't do and how to do that. But you don't need the app. The only thing you're missing by not downloading and using the app on this product is firmware updates. So you can download this, install it. There's a QR code on it. And then one of the other cool things about Meros is they include the HomeKit code on a sticker in the box for the plug as well. So they make apps for this to be able to back up your codes. But one of the things as you get into HomeKit is they use QR codes, and that's how you're able to activate the devices into HomeKit and pair it with your HomeKit setup. And you need those codes. And sometimes if you have to delete something or re-add something, you have to go get that code again. Well, having it in a box instead of having to go dig under the table or whatever to get your plug makes it a little bit handier. Just scan that and you have it and you're ready to go and get it back up online. Just make sure that when you throw the box away, take your QR code off. They handle up to 15 amps, so pretty much anything you want, coffee pot, anything else you can run off of this, lamps, anything else. And I told you they're super fast. I know there are some discussions out there about all smart home products and 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz networks, and this is supposed to be installed on a 2.4 gigahertz network. I haven't had that problem. My Wi-Fi network automatically switches, I guess, to enable that kind of connection. But that's just something to know that you have to make sure you're connecting on that. I just haven't had that problem. But again, no issues with me in terms of installing it. It was super easy and super fast to get installed. Now I have another plug from them that I also like, and this one is kind of cool too. This is a dual plug from them. And this is another reason why I love HomeKit, because of the what you can do in terms of this functionality. It comes with two plugs, but what's cool is you can control them independently, completely independently. And in HomeKit, you can do that, or in HomeKit, you can bind them together. You can choose. So for example, I had some decorations that required one cord going one way and one cord going the other way, and I was able to use this and control both of them from one button in HomeKit, because I could join them together and control them as one or split them out. And so that gives you options, flexibility, and you can name them different things. So if you have them hooked up to one device and hooked up to something else, you can name them separately so that when you look at it in your interface with that tactile touch interface, you can do two different names for them, or use two different names when you're talking to Siri. You can use two different names for them to call them out. So it installs once, you scan one QR code, you set it up one time, and then you're able to control simultaneously two different devices, and it's super cool as well. And this one is also inexpensive. I think I got a 2-pack of these for $32.99, and there was like a $3 off coupon or something like that. So we're talking under $30 for essentially 4 plugs, but 2 different plugs, and it only takes up 1 outlet. So you could essentially have 4 plugs on one wall plate because it only takes up 1 of those. So super useful in terms of that perspective, and inexpensive. And both of these have been really rock solid for me. I haven't had any problems with them, nothing like I've had with my Wemos in the past. So why is this cool? Because of how inexpensive and budget friendly they are. This is what you you want to look for and what I'm trying to look for you when it comes to HomeKit. I want to get this in my home. I want to be able to have that HomeKit interface and the usability without a cost burden associated with it. So here's a couple of picks of mine I'd like you to try out, and I think they'd be worthwhile to you. But that's why I'm making the transition to HomeKit. Hopefully your mileage is the same. If you have something different, let me know in the comments. If you like this show, subscribe. Please hit that little bell gizmo there and subscribe. And if you have some feedback for me, leave it. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and see you next time.